Hello and welcome, everyone. So, today we are actually going to be discussing, along with you, feel free to join in with the discussion on the comments below. We're going to be discussing an oft neglected topic, but one which is extremely important, in my opinion, for being healthy. This is the Being Healthy live stream. And so we look at everything that affects our lives that either stunts us, holds us back, or restricts us from being healthy, or energizes and promotes us to be healthy. And so, one of the things for me that's really important to look at is clutter. And why am I saying clutter? And what do I mean by clutter? Well, today we're going to be doing quite a few things. We're going to be looking at quite a few different ways of how we can actually look at clutter in our lives. And so we're going to look into uncovering the hidden dangers of clutter, not just the physical mess in your home, your office, but also our mental and emotional states, because that's where clutter begins. And also the energetic weight that clutter carries with it. This is the most important part for me. What is often dismissed or as harmless or as merely aesthetics or just something that I have no time for and I'll get to it when I can actually drain our vitality, drain our energies, drain our creativity. It can cloud our thinking. People talk about brain fog and they think it's just candida and parasites that create that, or dehydration. It can also be clutter, whether it's in the mind, in the home, in the office, in the car. I didn't realize that people had clutter into their car until lately. I saw some of my clients and I saw the clutter in their car. And that's the first time that I realized that we can have clutter in our car as well. So it also blocks our ability to manifest the life we want. And I'm sure Chizarina will have lots to say about that afterwards, about manifesting the life we want. We're going to explore both the metaphysical and the physiological and psychological, emotional, mental impact on clutter, not just today, but for the next 3 episodes as well. So we really invite you to join in, invite others to come in, send this to others. It can be the best gift you've ever given them. So with that said, Blythe, could you please take a moment to just think about what it is for you that is clutter?
Sure, that's easy. First, thank you for bringing up this topic. And I love that you said that clutter happens in the mind first. That was like one of those moments that was so poignant that I hope really landed for people, because wow, that's really powerful. Really, I mean, everything that we're experiencing is happening in our energy field first. So where is my life cluttered? I have 2 young children that are always growing out of clothes, growing out of toys, always creating artwork, always learning and writing, and everything's so special. Oh my gosh, this was the first time they wrote a whole paragraph. This is, so it's like you want to keep all this stuff because it has, energy attached to it, good energy attached to it. But, gosh, you just can't keep everything. And it's hard to get rid of stuff. It's hard to get rid of toys, the cuddly toys, the stuffy toys that are just like, they collect dust and like bacteria. But some of them are so beautiful and handcrafted and were very expensive. And, it's hard to get rid of stuff that was meaningful. But of course you have to have the balance. And clutter for me is I'm always in a low grade declutter. There's always, because I clean off the countertops and then the kids fill the countertops with stuff. I clean off the top of the dressers and then the kids, end up putting stuff on the dressers. And if you don't have young children, or maybe if you do and your children are maybe just better listeners than mine, but I am constantly saying the same things over and over. Like, I didn't know that about parenting. It's not just like you say, like, so stuff doesn't belong on top of the dresser. It either goes in the dresser or in the hamper, or, it's like you say this stuff, but you say it 3 times every single day for years. I mean, I didn't know that, but that's what happens. And so I'm always in a low grade declutter, or things just get out of hand really fast when you have little kids. I personally, my preference is like in my closet, I want to see everything hanging with nothing touching. I want in my cabinets in the kitchen to just have nothing really stacked. Like all my glasses are like stacked. Things are just like stuffed. And that's, you try to clear space, but also in a small space with a family of 4, sometimes the closets and the cabinets are more full than I'd personally like them to be, but that's fluid. Hopefully that's changing. But yeah, I see clutter as a daily practice of looking and going, what can I just clear? What can I bless someone else with? And that's how I let go of stuff easier too. Is like, how can this is going to bless someone else. And then I can let it go.
And I just want to welcome Jen, Judd, Dawn, James here. Hello, nice to have you here with us. So, Blythe, I'm so glad you mentioned also the fact that it seems that you do something, the children do something else, and it comes back and it keeps coming back. What I really loved was when you said that what you ideally would like to have is one day to have your closet. I presume you mean your dressing closet for your clothes, with space in between. Have you ever been to a Japanese clothing store or a Japanese hair salon, Blythe?
No, I have not. I have not. Is that how it is? They just, everything is just one thing. I love it.
Astonishing. I had a friend of mine who went to Japan not too long ago, and she just she said she just could not get over the fact that they walk into the hotel, everything is minimalist, and and I've never forgotten she said that. She said everything in that hotel room had a purpose. There was not one thing there that she did not use, that she could not use. Everything was purposeful. It's like if there's no purpose for it, there's no reason for it. In the so-called West, we put up trinkles and all these different things and, boxes of things all over the place. And then we put things in the box. And then this is not enough, so we need another one. And then we get all of these journals and whatnot that we need to write in, and they must match. And so you've got one, you should get the other one. And it just goes on and on and on and on. Pete, how is it there with you in England? And before we do that, I'm just going to bring up Jen, Judd, Dawn, James again. Great to be here. I usually go by JJ on YouTube. Hi, JJ. You might know me from there. Yes, thanks for coming in here, JJ, and welcome. So, Pete, let's go to you. And what is the relationship with clutter in the UK? Is it something spoken about much?
Oh, in the UK, is it spoken about much? I mean, we do have a really good recycling system, so much does go to the waste. So, is it? I would say I'm not too aware of it. However, I would make an amazing case for clutter, a study case. But also, I realize it's really so nice having a certain space of my own to have clutter, kind of clutter, but in terms of its creativity. So there might be a few different projects going on, 5, 6 different projects going on, and I might go from one to the other at different stages. Like Blythe, we have a young one, and you're constantly either clearing and tidying, and so it can look very cluttered. England in terms of I suppose because I'm a case of a bit of a clutter person, I don't really pay too much of attention if there is. There were some programs where someone would come in, I think anything that's been around for more than 6 months, they would come in to the person's house and they would totally get rid of it all. There's a theory, anything that isn't being used after 6 months, get rid of it. So for me though, I was laughing. Yes, me and my partner, we both have to work that's working in progress. However, I see in different ways how it can, not so much the clutter, creativity clutter can serve me. and I do so believe it is a reflection of as so in, so without. And so, yeah, I can see some, I won't say positivity, but it's a bit like you mentioned about fear. Fear can, be good because, you get a message and it's saved your life or something. So I can bring some of them in, and I have cross-examined them to see if I'm compartmentalizing and supporting my potential emotional attachment. So, I suppose that's, I can say much more, but I'll leave it there on the clutter. Yes, leave it there.
Thank you, Pete. Chisarina, come on in. Do you hear much about clutter in Canada? Is there any movement to address this? And
I'm not aware of a movement, but I used to live in Midwest, right, until 2018. So to me, it's pretty much similar, with friends or parents, ladies who come to my sessions who are moms, just like Blythe mentioned, it's sort of a never-ending journey. Personally, I am sometimes feeling like I'm engaged in this never-ending journey of sorting and letting things go. And what I have noticed also personally, as we go through our own practices of meditation, empowering ourselves with time in nature, and working on whatever is our focus, focus of connection to our soul journey, our soul dharma. As we do so, we look around, and every time we shift our awareness, we actually, one way to tell if we shifted awareness or something has shifted in the aspects of our life is you will notice clutter you haven't noticed before. And so that's how I measure sometimes my progress. If I'm, was it the other day, I was doing something, and all of a sudden I had this urge to look at some material, some writings that I've done a while back, and I needed to look at it and start revising it. I didn't start the process, but just the feeling that I need to go look at this training material that I've done years ago and start revising it, updating it. It got me, it made me go into the bathroom, and I noticed the little details of the bathroom rugs, that there was something, they needed to be shaken off, they needed to be laundered, they need to, they're white. And I just had this urge to just pick them up, put them and it felt so amazing. And of course, then the whole floor looked different because you have no rugs now, and it looked like spacious. And then just that little gesture I was noticing yesterday, this is how we work. It's all energetic. So now the rugs are back. It still feels fine, but it felt good for a while and the rugs are gone. So these are little examples of how material things, objects, everything, like you said, Doreet, has an energy. But as we are working with our awareness, with shifting perhaps perception, shifting the way we maybe update our work. In my case, it was just this urge to bring freshness to something that I haven't taken a look in a few years. And all of this is connected somehow at a deeper level, or a subtle level. So for me, that's what intrigues me or sort of fascinates me. Now, not everyone has time to look at these subtle levels, but I'm bringing them up because perhaps they have noticed and they didn't take time to reflect. And it will be a nice gem, a nice little treasure to dig up for ourselves, right? So I don't want to speak in general about Canada, but I wanted to share a little bit about my personal journey, that I feel it is never ending with this, but there are levels and levels of awareness with it. So thank you.
Thank you, Chisarina. So, one of the things that I think is really important to also acknowledge is what you just said, that when our own perception shifts, when we grow, all of a sudden we see clutter that we never noticed before. So that's how we know where there's clutter, and we know if we've grown. If we know that we have made progress in our lives, if we suddenly start recognizing clutter that was always there and we never saw it, noticed it, nor realized it. So, in keeping with that, I would like you all to watch this
just in
clip.
case. Don't worry, I got a plan for it.
This is some badass oak. We can use this for something.
Just 3 pallets. They'll live outside. My buddy Randall was at a job site. He couldn't just leave them there.
Do you need some scrap? I've got a lot of scrap.
Some of this was from our old house in Tennessee. No, that's good for mixing paint. Let's hang on to it.
I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I like it and I'm going to keep it. I've got a plan for all this wood eventually. A good thing I saved all this stuff. I can rebuild the bed frame by hand. Been saving this one for about 15 years.
You guys are doing a fire. Hey, let me show you this badass stuff you can use. Timmy, did you and your buddies throw my Eastern red cedar planks in the fire? Gosh!
You laugh, but I wouldn't have been able to build this.
What would we have done if I didn't have all this wood?
Hold on, I got the perfect piece for you. Stick that in there. I don't need to measure it. It's going to be perfect.
See, this is why I saved this stuff. I'm going to hang on to them just...
So you see, it's all about perception. Perception, what Chisarina just said, if you find that you don't notice the clutter and it's there, but it's there, everybody else says it exists, you don't notice it, the issue is us, the person who doesn't notice it. But we always know when we've grown more, and I certainly do. I know that when I go on my yearly silent retreats and I come back, I see clutter where I never thought there was clutter before. It's pretty amazing. So to keep on this theme, please.
Just in case. Don't worry, I got a plan for it.
This is some instructions right here. I keep all of them.
That was from a miter saw I bought back in '98. Let's hang on to it though, just in case. What's the brand? What year? What's the SKU number? I've got it.
Why would you do that?
The old coffee maker we don't have anymore. I'm gonna keep it though. I keep them all in a box down here.
Keep it in there. You never know when you'll need it.
Kept every manual for everything I've ever bought since 1974. Gosh, what are you doing? We may need to reference that. Got the original box too.
It's got everything. Flashlight holder, grocery bag hooks. Bet you didn't know you had those. I don't care if it's online. I like to have a hard copy.
This was from a toilet in our old house. Damn it, Ashley. I told you to save all the manuals. Sell it. It'll sell for more because I have the original manual. Don't forget, I've got every single receipt too.
Look, it says save.
All the excuses that we give ourselves, it never
Instructions right here. I keep all of them.
That was from a miter saw I bought back in '98. Let's hang on to it though, just in case. What's the brand? What year? What's the SKU number? I've got it.
Why would you do that?
The old coffee maker we don't have anymore. I'm gonna keep it though. I keep them all in a box down here.
Keep it in there. You never know when you'll need it.
Kept every manual for everything I've ever bought since 1974. Gosh, what are you doing? We may need to reference that. Got the original box too.
It's got everything. Flashlight holder, grocery bag hooks. Bet you didn't know you had those. I don't care if it's online. I like to have a hard copy.
This was from a toilet.
Okay, so this is a real issue for me, paperwork. And I used to have a problem with manuals. So I totally relate to this. So when I was living in New York City, that was my first time in the United States. I was working at the UN. And when I left the UN, I started my own business. And so I did not know that in the United States, one has one's own business, one needs to keep paperwork of just everything that one does for 7 years. I had no idea, all the receipts, everything. So when I went to file my taxes for the company I just started, I was in serious trouble. Fortunately, the person I was recommended to go to file my income tax was a former IRS agent who was now filing taxes for people in this country on permanent resident visas. And so he was a tremendous help for me. He says, "You didn't know you had to save all this?" I said, "No." He said, "Yes, you absolutely must save this." And I was shocked. And I thought, well, where am I going to put it? Because I never had a problem with clutter before. Never had to save anything. I lived in like 7 or 8 different countries. So I was always, discarding things and keeping the memories instead and keeping my own sense of self intact. So I didn't know this. So the next year, I tried to save all the receipts and a few things. And then went back and he said, oh, but I need this and I need this. I didn't have them. Again, there were things that were missing. He says, you've got to keep everything when you have your own business. Just keep them. Okay. So I started collecting all this paperwork and all these documents and all this clutter. And it seemed that every year that he would add something else to it that I needed to keep. And the next thing I know, I just started living in fear that the IRS is going to come after me because I don't have a certain document. So fear was the basis for my paper clutter. And it didn't stop with that. Anybody who sent me a really beautiful, and I got the most stunning cards and letters that people have sent me, actually, they sound more like an eulogy. When I decided to let go of them, I was thinking these things are amazing that people have written these things to me and said these things to me, and I would not let go of them. It's like the manuals. And then I started collecting manuals too, because every time I needed to look at something, the manual was missing until my friend said to me, why don't you just go online? Everything is online. And that's when I said, forget all these manuals. And it was the most amazing feeling to get rid of those. What do you have a problem really discarding? Blythe. And just turn off your
books. I love books. I love my library. I don't, if it's a book that's not serving me, then yes, I'll discard it. But I love my books, and so I'll allow myself to have a lot of books. We have a lot of books, but I like that. My journals, both just journals that I've bought and written in, and then my journal line, my Be It journals. I love all of them, and I love looking at them, and I've used a lot of them. And like Pete said, I love that creative clutter. For me, that's okay, to have creative clutter in that way. But the things that are hard for me to let go of, that probably need to be let go of, are like the kids' costumes. And like, we have 3 drawers of costumes in my dresser. Half of my dresser drawers are kids' costumes, and they still all fit them, because it's like, well, they might not fit Asta anymore, but then this costume can fit Mick, and it's a unisex costume or something. And so then even though it's too big for Mick, I still have it. And it's like one of those things that, Doreet, you said, like, everything needs to have a purpose. But when you have kids, there's so many things that have a purpose, but they're not being used every day. Or, the kids might not play with costumes for 2 months, but then it's like, I want them to have costumes when they're in the mood to have costumes when their friends over. I want to have enough costumes so everybody can have a costume, and there's still plenty to choose from and stuff like that. It's like, oh my gosh, we just need to let go of costumes and let go of some of the toys that get only played with not very often. I have to be willing to let go of some of that stuff, and it's hard.
And that you just said something that's important. It's a decision. So JJ just put up, I have so many things I haven't used in 6 months. He's going back to the 6 months that Pete said, that could really cut out my clutter. I hold on emotionally to things. I say I might need it later on. So that's a fear-based behavior. That is also a behavior that we're not good enough without these things. Something will be missing from us without these things, as if anything on the outside is ours anyway, or as if that has anything to do with us. Our own self-worth comes from within. So if we put the same amount of attention inwards, but here's the problem with putting the attention inwards. We've got too much clutter in our minds and our thoughts too. So we're going to be discussing this in later episodes and, in subsequent Thursdays when we do this. Pete, you had said that in the UK, you know about this person who comes around every 6 months. I actually do the same thing, but every 2 years. I figure if I haven't worn something, use it in 2 years. Like Blythe was saying about the books, I've got books that I adore that have made such a huge difference in my life. And a few years ago, I suddenly realized, if they've made a difference in my life, have I made a difference in my life? Am I really dependent on having these books around? Because if so, I'm very powerless. I don't really absorb my own power. So I took all the books I love the most and I gave them to the library. I figured, pass it on to somebody who will need them most. If I have not absorbed these books myself, or what I loved in them to be a part of me, then I'll just have to start over when I'm ready. And I could go to the library and borrow it back again. No problem. So, Pete, what do you find? You and Blythe spoke about creative clutter. What exactly do you mean by creative clutter?
Well, at the moment, because I'm very practical with my hands, let's just say we talk about now. In part of the garden, I have a trailer sauna I'm building, little solar oven, just fixed on my big dehydrator, sort of bypassed certain circuits. What else? Let me think. And I work with wood, so the wood guy, that is me. I mean, I had another yard, I say a yard space many years ago, and my elder brother, his kind of cliche would be, anything you might need, Pete's got it. Pete's got it. Because generally, I would have the space, but I didn't have the space. So, in terms of working with my hands, it's like, oh, that metal would make something good for this, that wood. People would even bring wood for me if they had good wood. Two reasons. One, that we have a sauna, so we would burn wood as well, but especially more the hardwoods. I've made these flutes recently. Well, I made didgeridoos many years ago. I still have made a few over the last year, and that's from natural fallen wood. So I've got a little collection of them. A few waiting to be done in my creative flow. Old, say, more seasoned fallen branches I've made recently, been making these American native flutes. So there's quite a few things there, and fortunately my partner has a similar kind of trait. So that's what I mean in terms of creative clutter. Many years ago, in relation to Blythe and maybe you, Doreet, I was 14, 15, whoever I got it from, but I did have 3 older sisters. Even I would be ironing my underpants, and then my hair, I couldn't even, it had to be all sorted before anyone saw me. I mean, relate to astrology, I do have certain traits like Virgo rising, moon, Pluto on my ascendant, etc., which could make me seriously OCD. But then there's a fine line with OCD and the programs of, that's many programs, but the program of what is correct and what is not correct. So in terms of creative clutter, that's what I mean. In terms of what would I find difficult, well, say difficult, there's wood. And literally the things I get making out of certain wood, I've i.e. saunas, etc. So there was a time when I was about 30, got rid of it all, came when I went to India, etc. I came back to just a bin liner. 22 years ago, when my daughter was born, my older daughter, I still have the pram my mum bought, who's passed away. And it did come in handy because my elder brother used it, say, 5 years on. And it's actually, I still have it. So that's maybe sentimental. I might restore that up or just let it go. So things like that, really. And when we go away, as Cesarina said, or shift, shift and awareness. But what I find, I mean, I do lots of kind of inner shifting anyway, but going away and coming back, when I'm away, it's just like it all doesn't matter. It all doesn't matter. And I've done it a few times in my life. I've actually 8 years ago let go of a lot of things. 17 years ago, I had this big fire. So I'm going to say I've been guided in terms of letting go a lot of stuff at different times of my life. However, I'm aspiring to be more proactive and see the symbols. So when we go away, we come back and, right, if you've been more bin liners of clothes, go, things we don't need to use. And, me and my partner, we support each other in that because we do have a similar trait. And in terms of, the inner mess, outer mess, it's really interesting because I totally do see it, that it can hold you back as well. I could bring in a scenario where I've witnessed it, that it supported. I've actually witnessed why some of it, and it supported where I was at that moment in terms of, if we go into everything's perfect. So it truly has, and maybe I wasn't ready to truly integrate aspects of myself. There can be excuses. However, I do truly see that message, that connection. And what do I mean by that in terms of, I'm going to say, because of certain consistency of who I am, we all have different makeups. And if for me to run before I could walk, it feels like I've been guided and kind of guided and slightly trained. And it's like recently, okay, now you're ready for the next chapter. Hence the next clearing out. And what do I mean by that? If I ran, I see so many people caught up in ego. I could have been caught up more in the money trip, caught up in all the amazing design programs that we see on the media. So my roots have got strong. Some people's roots, sounds like yours, Doreet, in the early stages of life, had a pretty good foundation for that.
And yet it changed. I went the opposite direction, actually. So before we go to Cesarina, I just want to speak about and show you all one of the other issues that is a real problem. And that is that society, we've set it up so that we actually accumulate things and accumulate more than we need, and that we think it's absolutely necessary. Because when I moved to Los Angeles, that was the first time that I ever started to accumulate boxes.
Get rid of it. It's a perfectly good box. We can use it for something. I feel bad about getting rid of this. This is a nice box. You never know if you're going to need to ship something this exact size. What if for some reason I need my iPhone box? You never know. It's got the magnetic closure. Damn it. Some of these I've had for 20 years. Ooh, yeah, this is a nice corrugated box. You laugh, but when Christmas rolls around, we're going to be all set. This random shoebox is where I keep a lot of important documents. Mom wants to keep this one for a specific Christmas decoration. I'll find a spot for them. You don't just get rid of these boxes, Sharon. This is a badass wooden box. Don't toss that one. I've got a plan for it. Look, it's perfect for random stuff. That'll be 8 by 6 by 6. I already got a few of them. Ooh, that's a good box. Put it with the others. Anything in here is free game except for that stack and some of those in that stack. Ashley, what are you doing? We can use this! Here, Timmy, this should be perfect for your diorama project. Let me hang on to it until I find something to do with it. You know what? We'll hang on to it. Did you recycle my MacBook box from 8 years ago? Gosh! You need to mail something? What do you need? Look inside this giant box that houses all my other boxes. If none of these are gonna work, I've got more. Is that one gonna work for you? See? Aren't you glad we saved all these?
So when I moved to LA, I thought I was going to be moving soon again. So I started saving boxes. Oh gosh, every box that I ordered something I would save. And then a few years later, I realized this is insanity. This is truly insanity. If I'm going to move again, there are places that sells boxes. I'll just make the money to go and buy those boxes. And I finally got rid of them because I realized that this is actually obstructing my life. And it didn't make any sense. So, Cesarina, you live in a retreat center. So I would think you're forced to constantly declutter.
Believe it or not, I have a husband who likes simplicity. So most of the whole retreat place is Zen. Most of the rooms and everywhere. Except where I have my room or a couple of rooms, the office upstairs and the bedroom. And I can use a little bit of the books, my personal things in my rooms. But other than that, I actually, when I moved here, I thought, oh my God, where am I? I had moved from an apartment in the Midwest to Canada. And I thought to myself, where am I going to put my stuff, my books, my teaching materials, because there's no space. It's a big place, but there's no storage. So I know it's funny that way. But it's teaching me how to stay on top of it and be aware And just like Blythe said, I do have a soft spot for books. So I have been giving some away. I found a way to replace the ones that I'm giving away, the physical ones, with online PDFs so that I can still, if I ever need to go and refer to something, I know I have that book somewhere. So I'm moving in that direction a little more with the digital books versus the physical ones, but I still have physical books, and I'm finding resistance letting those books go. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I understand that one, Chisarina, because I had that problem with the books too. But when I let them go, when I let them go, I didn't just surrender them away. I gave them to the library. So I thought I was giving a gift of the things that I really loved the most to somebody. And that was the most liberating feeling, to give away what I liked a lot. And so I really recommend everyone to really think about that. Blythe, what would help you to create less clutter in your life?
If my children would follow my suggestions on where to put their stuff, would be one thing that would be really helpful. You know, I love creating art with the kids, and that's also like a really hard thing to get rid of, is their art. And so, I mean, I could say, well, we'd create less of that if we just did less art, but that doesn't seem right, you know? What would help me create less or manage clutter? Maybe having just a real system around it, of knowing, you know, I like my countertops and, you know, all the surfaces. I like the surfaces cleared. I like to make sure all the toys are in the toy boxes. I like to make sure that, you know, we have like the, you know, the kitchen set up for the, you know, the kids set, and making sure that that kitchen looks nice and it's not all the toys all over the place. So I think maybe just having systems around it is helpful. I love what Chisarina said about when you shift awareness, then you see clutter that you've never seen before. I've been in a real space of growth and really becoming more of who I'm meant to be. And I see more. I'm like, what is this corner doing? And I notice things much more now. And so maybe that's a really big key part of it too, in terms of decluttering, is really centering and allowing yourself to align with your highest version of self. And then in doing that, you notice the things that need to be addressed to clear that energy for yourself. Because, you know, like you said, Doreet, it's all energy. And Shazreen, I love the example of the rugs, right? It's like you felt the difference in your space when you moved something and when you shifted something. And doesn't it feel so good, right? We can all relate to that when we rearrange the furniture of a room. It's like, oh, or after we just freshly get rid of stuff, organize the bookshelves, organize the dresser. It feels different, even when you can't see it, even when it's in the drawer or in the cabinet, when it's something you can't even visually see it, we still feel the difference, right? And so, you know, for me, just remembering that there's always a result that's a beneficial result to the end of doing a task, because I've had a task that I've been meaning to do for over a month of, you know, clearing my dressers and just getting rid of stuff, and I haven't addressed it yet. So remembering that there's such a benefit at the end will help me to get the task done.
Yes, having benefits are really important. For me, what really helped me with the books, because that was the hardest thing for me to do too, like some of you here, was realizing I still have the books. It's just the library's taking care of them.
Right.
Let them dust them every week. Let them take, and then other people come and borrow them. And in any case, people are borrowing my books anyway. We're never returning them to me. And that created a little bit of rift and tension. You never return. I asked you, please. You told me. I realized this is nonsense. I'm getting caught up in this ridiculous thing that has nothing to do with life on earth. And then I gave it to the library, and I just loved the library after that. I realized if I wanted that book, I could go there and get the exact same book if nobody had borrowed it, bring it back, use what I want of it, and give it back to them. That really helped me. And then I started to take that further. I started to think about the fact that there are women from battered homes who run away with just the clothes on their backs. And if I gave all these clothes away and all the many umbrellas I've accumulated, because I'm an umbrella freak. And, you know, when I went to Italy, I remember that I found in Milano an entire 4 corners It took up 4 blocks of an umbrella store. Took up 4 blocks. The most stunning, gorgeous, real works of art of umbrellas. I bought way too many umbrellas, but I love umbrellas. Like people, like women like shoes, or women like handbags, which I don't understand. But I realized if I gave all the stuff I love to battered women, wouldn't that be a real gift? That they can feel really their own worth, that these are things that are really high, of a high caliber, and these are things of high standard. That's the ones I want to give it to. So I started doing that, and that became almost an obsession. I just kept giving things and giving things away to them until, without realizing it, I had decluttered. So it's really our perception, and it really is energetic. And having said that, Pete, I think you live on a land, right? So you're surrounded by land, and you're pretty much, the stuff is not even in your house.
I do have stuff in the house, some clutter, but yeah, outside I was talking about, but it's really interesting. So let's just say, as Chazarina said about, in terms of as you shift, I really recognize that. And for me, so we've got obviously 3 other people's different interpretations. For me and my journey, I realize having an archetype or a role model, so to speak, if that makes sense, in terms of, wow, actually, that person's really quite impeccable, or words to that degree. So coming from, I would say, an upbringing of not really having that, and not very good role models. So yeah, that's been an interesting journey. So we, in terms of the house, we have a blitz every so often. It's been beautiful going away, coming back, and actually getting into a creative flow is keeping a creative flow, you know. And as well as what I realize is what is more important. I aspire to be in the moment, you know, potential clutter or mess, or being more present with my family. So I put that priority, and the mess and etc. clutter will get dealt with. You could say it's another form of constipation, emotional constipation. I will put my hands up to that. You know, frequency, feng shui, I do get all that in terms of energy flow. However, I do sometimes see that I do see some benefits, not the negative connotation of clutter. So yeah, we have a rather large garden, so, and it's fortunate that I can it can be my playground to a degree, and you know, the landlord's very open to that, and we've done a few small retreats here, and potentially going to be doing another event in September. So it's been beautiful to be creative in my child, in my kid, you know, and me being the sole person who can decide when and where exactly, or when he wants to jump into different projects, you know.
And also, I think, Pete, that when you are a living food chef, there's certain things you just have to have around all the time. And also when you do workshops and festivals and things like that, you've got to keep so much stuff.
Yes, I forgot to add that, yes, because this is where boot markets can become a bit of an addiction. So, you know, I'll be going and be collecting plates, collecting wooden bowls. We really love wooden bowls, and, you know, nice cake stands. And so, you know, I have got a little collection of that, but then, you know, you could think, when is enough? So there are a few boxes, and even when we go to take all our stuff to the festivals, you know, some people look in there, it's just like, you know, maybe might have 8 boxes and 3 of them didn't even get touched, but just in case. So yeah,
and that's the problem, the just in case. when you have children, just in case I need, it's like Blight said, children might come over. I want them to be able to have outfits that they can play with and things like that. There's always a
Yeah.
just in case.
So it's good. It's good to recognize that, and we over the last year many things have shifted again. We've each day really, and each time we are getting rid of stuff, and it's really nice. It's, when you think about energy flowing, to give, receive, give, receive. So it's getting back to a more basic way we would have been. And then I look back on my life as well, and the clutter comes with, for me as well, being more stagnant. And if I look back, emotionally repressed, and then maybe more insecurities come in without even knowing, so you tend to potentially hoard more. So that becomes that can be detrimental. So the more I've connected back in with me, basically I'm home. So anywhere I am, I'm home. So it doesn't really kind of let's just say it's not really I'm not really attached to these things. When I'm there in it, more attachment when I'm away. But however, it's really good to kind of pick away at the things that aren't serving you, literally, as I do in terms of my body and a natural way of eating, etc., etc. So it's a symbiotic relationship, really.
Yes, symbiotic, most definitely. Chisarina, I'm going to read something, and I want you to comment on this, please. Clutter is not just physical stuff. It's old ideas, toxic relationships, and bad habits. Clutter is anything that does not support your higher self. Can you comment, please, Chisarina?
Well, I guess if you want to see clutter, I know we called it as a danger here, and it's a strong word. He's saying danger. If we, from a coaching perspective, if we see it as a helper, as a tool, as a what's the word? Stay curious. We stay curious, and we accept that is an ally here. So it's informing us. It's an informant of where we're at. And from that perspective, what you just read is simply advice for life, right? So if clutter is an informant, then we can have a way to measure in our journey without judgment, without, no one is perfect. Everyone is doing the best they can in every moment as they can, as they possibly can cope with whatever is coming at them. But if we start to use it as a tool, as an informant, as a way of measuring, then we could move forward. And so I'm inviting us to see it in a positive light, because if we start seeing it always in a negative light, we're going to get overwhelmed, and sometimes people shut down when they know that this is an issue, and then they shut down and they can't. It's like a mound of impossible sorting or whatever, decluttering in front of their path, and they may not see a way through it. But if we see it, okay, well, there it is, and here's me, and I know I have moments in my life when I felt free, and now I'm not feeling as free, but I know what I need to do, and then kind of stay curious and playful, and perhaps make it manageable. I think that would be a way to help ourselves to deal with it in an easier, if that makes sense, in a gentler. I tend to look at a gentle approach when things seem almost impossible to tackle, because that's the way that I found personally. I have to make it playful and fun, whatever it is, the task at hand, and then it will be doable. To make it doable, you have to work with these parts of yourself that are willing to have fun a little bit and look at it from an entertaining, everyone said here, Pete and you and Blythe, they look at it and say, oh, well, look at all this. It keeps happening. Well, let me see, can I turn it around in some way, make it some fun, and have a go at it in a different direction, and then feel a little better. And that would be the point, to actually have progress. Otherwise, we could talk about next year and maybe the conversation will stay the same way, and we don't want that, right? So we want to come back. Maybe this would be the coach, the inner coach in me, Doreet, wants to say it would be a fun homework for all of us. I don't know if next week, I haven't asked what the topic is next week, but if it's, perhaps you can take a few minutes next week, and from now to next week, we can do one little thing that can be fun about this, that doesn't feel impossible, and we can actually feel satisfied that we got it done. So this is the way to sort of be accountable and share and work through that resistance.
Absolutely. Yes, we are doing this again next week because this is a huge topic. We have not gone into most of what we need to go into here yet. In fact, I'm going to have one whole episode on just the Japanese art of organization and letting go. It is absolutely life-changing. It has been for me. And so in that most beautiful gift that you just said about, finding the most to do it in an entertaining way, I actually have fun with it now. I find it to be, and but this is what I think of. It's not what I'm getting rid of. It's who could really benefit from this now. To whom should I be giving this? To whom should I be? And I don't see it as mine anymore. I see to whom does the universe wish me to then give this in order to keep the flow going. Just keep the flow going. And you used the word before, I think it was Pete, or was maybe which is Pete, I think was the word stagnant. That's exactly what clutter does to us. It stagnates us. But when we flow with the universe, we flow with life, we're able to let go of it and keep it moving from one person to the other. So I'd like you to look at this as, and if my entire life and point of view and identity have been built on a false foundation, confronting that false foundation would mean destroying it and rebuilding a new foundation from the ground up. I have no idea how to go about doing this. I have no idea how to go about life without doing it in the shadow of my mother, without my every move being dictated by her wants, her needs, her approval. A lot of our clutter is due to our issues with our mothers. And we're going to be looking into that as well during these series. So yes, Cesarina, I suggest that everyone listening to this, participating in this, whether you're watching the live or you're watching the tape version, or an order for co-hosts, to play with one aspect of clutter in your life this week. It doesn't have to be the physical. It could be the mental, it could be the emotional. It could also be the societal clutter as well. We have so much societal clutter, especially in politics and around politics. And there's so much we need to get really rid of and start organizing our lives. Why? Because organization isn't about perfection. It's about efficiency, reducing stress and clutter, saving time and money, and improving your overall quality of life. This is from Christina Scalise. I'm going to repeat this again. This is really important. Organization isn't about perfection. It's about efficiency, reducing stress and clutter, saving time and money, and improving your overall quality of life. So what I started doing is I do not at all celebrate holidays that have been superimposed on me by society. So most of the holidays where I live in any country, I don't celebrate them. I just watch how the natives celebrate them, and I, learn from them and whatnot. So what I've done with every so-called holiday, that's when I declutter. I spend the whole day. I cannot begin to tell you how refreshing and how light I feel at the end of the holiday. And I hear people coming back going, oh, I feel exhausted today. I ate too much. Oh my gosh, that was a horrible trip. And I had this happen at the airport and this. And I am the opposite. I am just full of lightness of being because I actually use that time to declutter. To me, it's a holiday for me to let go of what no longer serves me, to take notice of this. Because as you said before at the beginning, Cesarina, when we change our perception and going away from the space in which we normally inhabit, we come back, we begin to see clutter in places we never saw them before. And especially with me, because I observe Shabbat, I observe every Saturday a day of silence. Every Sunday, I see clutter that I never saw before. Every single Sunday. It's amazing that Friday evening to Sunday morning, I would have a total shift just from being in silence, not eating, fasting that day. I fast that day I fast from everything. I don't do anything, but sometimes I do declutter. It's become a fun project for me now to declutter. It's actually fun. I look forward to it now. So I think when we say, oh, I don't have time, there's just not enough time in a day to do that, but we have enough time to create clutter. So we have enough time to create clutter that we can find time to declutter. So these are the excuses we use. No time, stress or anxiety around it. We don't need stress or be anxious around it. Once you get to do it, oh my gosh, the opposite. There's no stress or anxiety. You feel the opposite. We might say we have poor health, so it's just too big a task for us, but it's actually creating poor health in us. We might say, oh, if I start decluttering, then my boyfriend, my wife, my girlfriend, my children, they're going to be upset, and then it's just going to add to the relationship issues that we've had, or your relation issue with your mother. You don't want to let go of certain things from your childhood because they remind you of some nice thing that your mother finally did for you. It might have to do with money as well. That's a huge one. When people declutter, oh, but if I waste this, if I throw this out, you don't have to throw it out. Find the next person who could use it. There's always somebody who wants it and that could serve them. And we reduce our productivity with loads of clutter. So with this in mind, just 1 minute to each of our co-hosts, please. What are you willing to let go of, as Chisarina suggested this week? And we meet back here next week, Thursday, same time, same place. And you let us know what it is that you decluttered, starting with Blythe.
Hi, thank you so much. I am willing to let go of clothes that I don't need and pajamas. I don't need so many pairs of pajamas and so many workout clothes. I'm going to shed that. And Doreet, thank you for saying societal and cultural clutter. I've never really frameworked it that way, and I'm definitely going to be looking for where there's societal clutter and cultural clutter that don't belong to me. So thank you for that. Thank you for this wonderful conversation, everyone. I appreciate it all.
You're welcome. We're going to be looking in that in one of the episodes too. So I'm going to be asking you all to just start, thinking about that and what it is that you think and you recognize now as societal clutter and cultural as well. So that brings us to Pete.
Hi. Yeah, well, we are clearing out. We're actually, because we're scaling down on doing the festivals, we're only doing this one recently. That's going to be the last one we're doing in that context. So we're clearing out a lot of old stuff we will not be using in terms of the CAF. And we are. I'm shifting some word and metal. I really loved loving what you all are saying. Cesarina was saying in terms of joy. So I've actually shown people, aspired to work with people over 17, 16 years at cast and festivals and hit a real joy space. So it's working with them to get into a joy space because it just doesn't work in the kitchen. So that's been really interesting. And so I get to the point of joy in everything. If it's getting boring, move on. Yeah, don't make it a beautiful project. And definitely not to give yourself a hard time. So, about 18 years ago, I realized anything that's wobbling my energy field, I would work with, use it as a sign, like Cesarina has said, and work with that. So go deeper and clear that. So I'm not caught up in it. It's like any supposed illness in the body. We can see it as a sign. They're all signs, and we can work with them as a beautiful project, not put all caught up in the societal kind of fear program, etc.
Thank you. So, Cesarina, you will give us the parting remarks. What are you willing to let declutter this week?
I have let go of a lot of workout clothes because I yoga clothes, because I have had this realization a few years back, since I've been spending time in Mexico in winter. You realize your body cannot stand, I realize your body cannot stand the fabrics that are non-natural, like the linen is great, the organic cotton, but anything else that's beyond that, that's not a blend of linen, cotton, or silk, or natural, is literally, if it has rayon or polyester, it was literally, the body didn't want it anymore. And a lot of the workout clothes or yoga clothes, I had really nice ones even, I cannot wear anymore. So I'm gonna go, I have released a lot of them already, but I'm going to, maybe that would feel so good to go through all of that, and it'll be easy, because if it's not feeling light to the body, to the energy, then it has to go, because it's not gonna be worn.
Wonderful, Chisarina. I'm so glad for that. And just so everyone remembers, please work, everyone, whether you are a co-host or you've been listening here, or you want to send it to somebody else and bring them in with it, work in one aspect of your life you'd like to declutter this week. We'll meet back here next week, same time, same place, and we will all see what the results are for us personally in our own lives. So until then, I will look forward to hearing from you next week about that. Bye for now.